Some books weren't meant to survive. In 1559, the Catholic Church drew a line in blood and ink. It published a list of forbidden texts. Books too dangerous to read, too powerful to leave untouched. Among them were volumes said to summon angels, trap demons, and bend the will of spirits to human command. They were grimoires, ritual manuals that blended prayer with sorcery, scripture with summoning. And while the church hunted heretics by the dozens, it burned these books by the thousands. Why? Because a heretic challenged dogma, but a grimoire offered power. Raw, unfiltered power. The kind that didn't need permission. The kind that could turn a village priest into a rival. Tonight, we'll open the pages they tried to erase. We'll trace the church's war on magic and reveal the books it feared more than the devil himself. If you enjoy these dives into depths of hidden truths, please do consider liking this video and subscribing to Vortex Mythology. We really appreciate the support. So, let's open this one up and see where it goes. To understand why the church feared these texts, we need to ask, what is a grimoire? The word itself evolved from the Old French grammaire, originally meaning simply a book of Latin learning. Dry, academic, authoritative. But Latin was the language of scholars and of secrets. And over time, grammar became shorthand for any book of hidden knowledge, especially those that whispered of things beyond the veil and of magic. But a true grimoire isn't vague mythology or hearsay. It's a handbook, structured and often meticulous in design. Inside, you'll find precise rituals, how to purify yourself before summoning, which prayers to recite, when the stars must align, how to draw circles and sigils, which angel to invoke, or which demon to bind. They were often written by educated men, scholars, monks, even priests, who believed that divine power could be mapped, measured, and accessed through ritual. In a time when literacy was rare and Latin sacred, grimoires became secret keys to hidden realms. But they weren't inherently evil. Many combined Christian invocations with earlier pagan or hermetic traditions. A grimoire might include Psalm 91 alongside instructions for crafting a talisman. It might open with the Lord's Prayer and end with instructions for hydromancy, scrying through water to see the future. That blending was the problem. To the medieval church, salvation came through hierarchy. God spoke to the priest to the people. A grimoire disrupted that chain. It offered power directly. No bishop, no pulpit, just ritual and will. So in 1559, when the first index of forbidden books was published, it wasn't surprising that grimoires were among the first texts named. They weren't just dangerous, they were disobedient. And none was more infamous than the Key of Solomon. Despite its legendary name, the Key of Solomon was not written by the biblical king. Instead, it likely emerged in the 14th or 15th century, During the European Renaissance, a period when occult philosophy was being translated, copied, and adapted into increasingly elaborate forms. But the legend stuck, and with good reason. The Clavicular Solomon is a masterwork of ceremonial magic. It details purification rituals that span days, fasting, bathing in consecrated water, wearing white linen robes. Before any invocation, the practitioner must create sacred tools, a wand of almond wood, a dagger inscribed with divine names, a ring of protection drawn in lambskin ink. Then comes the work itself, invocations written in corrupted Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. A magician calls forth spirits, some celestial, others elemental, not with pleas, but with authority. The book includes commands to bind spirits, force them to speak, and extract favors. Common requests include hidden treasure, knowledge, invisibility, and love. The spirits obey, it says, if the ritual is flawless, but if not, disaster. To the church, this was no longer harmless curiosity. The key used God's names, but outside church authority. It summoned angels without sacraments. It cast circles in place of cathedrals. And perhaps most threatening, it worked. Whether or not the rituals had real power, the belief in them did. That was enough. The book was targeted by inquisitors. Copies were seized from monastic libraries. During the Venetian Inquisition, it was publicly condemned. Pope Innocent VI ordered its destruction. But the text endured. Hidden in private libraries, translated into Italian, Latin, and English, it spread. And as it did, darker versions emerged, ones that replaced angels with demons. Which brings us to its infamous descendant, the Lemegeton. By the 17th century, the Key of Solomon had evolved into something far more dangerous. The Lemegeton, Clavicular Salomonis, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, is a compilation of 5 grimoires. But its most famous section, the Ars Goetia, is a catalogue of demons. Not metaphors, not symbols, names, descriptions, powers, and commands. 72 demons are listed, each one ranked by noble title: Duke, Prince, King. Each has a sigil, a magical symbol representing their essence, and instructions for summoning and controlling them. For example, Paimon, a king, offers knowledge of science and secrets of the earth. Bua teaches philosophy and healing. Andromulius recovers stolen goods. But these aren't passive spirits. The rituals demand control. The magician must inscribe specific pentacles, use divine names to bind the spirit, and speak with utter precision. The consequences of failure: possession, madness, death. And yet, the book circulated widely. In hidden circles, it became a cornerstone of Western demonology. To the Church, this was the ultimate transgression. It was one thing to pray incorrectly, but another to summon an army of demons using corrupted scripture. The Ars Goetia was swiftly added to the Index of Forbidden Books. Theologians denounced it as sorcery. Some even claimed it was dictated by demons themselves, disguised as angels of light. But the book remained in circulation, passed hand to hand among those who believed knowledge was worth the risk. And not all grimoires were focused on demons. Some, like Ars Notoria, sought something else entirely. Wisdom of a different kind. Long before the Goetia whispered names of demons, the Ars Notoria offered something quieter, and in some ways, even more seductive. Divine knowledge. The Ars Notoria dates back to at least the 13th century. It claims to be a book of notary art, a divine shortcut to mastery. Not through study, but through ritual, through prayer, sigils, and repetition. Its goal wasn't sorcery, it was brilliance. Inside are complex invocations written in poetic Latin, instructions for timing rituals during planetary alignments, and geometric diagrams meant to seal knowledge into the mind. Practitioners believed that by reciting these invocations and meditating on the sigils, they could improve memory, eloquence, and intellectual understanding. Some monks believed it worked, and that made it dangerous. Because if a student could become wise without years of study, without a university, without the approval of religious faculty, then the church's gatekeeping of knowledge was under threat. For a time, the Ars Notoria was tolerated, even studied, but later versions began including more occult imagery, planetary invocations, magical diagrams, names of angels unknown to scripture. And as its rituals spread beyond the monastery walls, the church changed its stance. It too was added to the index, because even divine knowledge, if accessed the wrong way, became heresy. Long before the Key of Solomon found its Latin form, there was something older, something Greek, something stranger. The magical treatise of Solomon, also known as the Hygromanteia, likely emerged between the 6th and 8th centuries in the Byzantine world. It's considered the earliest surviving ancestor of the Solomonic magical tradition. The Hygromanteia is deeply syncretic. It invokes Christian saints, yes, but also pagan deities, celestial bodies, and ancient spirits. Its pages describe hydromancy, divination through water, astrology-based talismans, lunar magic, and names of spirits, both light and dark. Its rituals are precise but unfamiliar, mixing the cross with Greek magical symbols, Christian invocations with remnants of Hellenistic theurgy. For church authorities, this was dangerous, not because it was openly pagan, but because it blurred lines. Where did faith end and magic begin? The church couldn't answer that, so it declared the text heretical. Manuscripts were hidden in monasteries, mislabeled, or lost entirely. But its influence seeped into later texts, from the Key of Solomon to the Goetia. The Hygromanteia was the foundation, the buried root, and the church did everything it could to sever it. As grimoires multiplied, so did the Church's response. In 1559, Pope Paul IV formalized the Index Librorum Prohibitorum. It was an act of war. Every few decades, the index was updated. Each time, new titles were added. Texts on alchemy, astrology, heresy, and especially magic. But grimoires were treated differently. They were hunted. Church inquisitors were trained to recognize magical diagrams and Latin invocations. Monasteries were searched. Books were confiscated. Printers were punished. Some grimoires were burned in public ceremonies. Others were quietly destroyed in cathedral vaults. The goal wasn't just to stop people from reading. It was to erase the memory that these books ever existed. But knowledge resists erasure. Copies were hidden, smuggled, handwritten, disguised as psalters or devotionals. In some cases, single pages were memorized and passed down orally, surviving centuries of suppression. In trying to kill grimoires, the Church made them immortal. So why did the Church fear these books more than outspoken heretics? Because a heretic could be corrected, debated, punished, publicly renounced. A grimoire couldn't. A grimoire offered tools, invocations, diagrams, names. Not ideas, methods. You didn't need to believe in them. You only needed to use them. Whether they worked was almost irrelevant. The possibility that they might was threat enough. And unlike heresy, which attacked theology, grimoires attacked something deeper: authority. They allowed ordinary people to bypass the Church entirely, to access knowledge, healing, hidden forces, or demonic power without a priest. Some grimoires even came from within the clergy itself, an internal revolt masked as mysticism. Worse still, they worked underground, quietly, secretly. You didn't need a pulpit to change the world. Just a candle, a circle, and a book. That was what made them dangerous. The Church could excommunicate a heretic, but a grimoire could outlive a pope. Today, grimoires are sold as curiosities, bound in leather, filed under Occult. But centuries ago, they were firewood for inquisitors and reasons for executions. They weren't just feared for their content, but for what they represented. A rebellion against spiritual monopoly. A belief that knowledge, true, sacred, dangerous knowledge, should not be locked behind stone altars and Latin chants. Some sought angels, others conjured demons, but all grimoires shared one thing. They gave power to those who read. And that, more than anything, is what the Church tried to bury. But buried things don't always stay buried. Let us know in the comments, which grimoire do you find most fascinating, or most dangerous? Give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, because next time we open the pages even further. Until then, be careful what you read by candlelight.